listening to the Balancing Act podcast. Here's your hosts, Jamie Wonko and Joe Vitale.
Are we recording?
We are officially recording. Yes, we are.
Hello, and welcome back to the Balancing Act podcast. I am Jamie Wonko here with Mr. Joseph Vitale. Hello, Mr. Vitale.
Hello, friend. How are we doing?
We are doing very well. Thank you very much. Yeah.
We are in the deep depths of March at this point.
We're always in the deep depths of something.
Of something. Yes, I know. March seems like, again, another one of those, like another
Beware
one of those months.
the Ides of March.
Yes, the Ides of March.
Mm-hmm.
It always seems like one of those months that has like a million days in it because there's no days off. So
yeah,
we don't get that little break.
Although daylight savings kind of starts to perk everything up and, we have more hours of daylight.
Agreed.
And that is something that, and speaking of another thing that we have been perked up by, not just the longer daylight hours, but we have a guest in the studio today, Mr.
Wow.
Vitale.
Look at you, the professional transitioner that you are. So yeah, we have a guest. Well, let's bring him in here. Hello, Ed DeShazer. How are you? It is great to have you with us today. We're excited that you're able to join us. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I definitely appreciate you all for having me on. I enjoy to be connecting with other like-minded people in the educational space, and so it's an honor to be here.
We definitely would like to know, as we jump in here, Ed, is what is your path? Like, what are you currently doing in education? What subjects did you teach? How did you, what makes Ed DeShazer Ed DeShazer? I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I didn't ask you that before. I just want to make sure.
Pronounce it correctly. So you were one of the few that pronounces it correctly the first time. So
got it.
Good work. Yeah, so currently I am the executive director at a K-8 school, Greater Holy Temple Christian Academy out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I've been the executive director there since 2016. It's actually the only school I've ever worked at full time.
Oh, wow.
I've been there since 2006, I believe 2006. So I'm on my 19th year. Actually got an education, started off as a gym teacher. And then halfway through the school year, we were having challenges in the classroom, and the principal called me into the office and said, "Hey, we would love for you to switch to 7th grade."
Oh.
And I was like, "Sure, let's do it." And I switched to 7th grade. It was actually my favorite job I've ever had in a school. And I did that for a couple of years. I've pretty much done every position in our school until I became the executive director. So my father founded the school. So that's what really brought me into education in the first place. So it's more than just like a job for me. It's really like a legacy, a family legacy in education. So that's kind of how I stumbled into education.
Where mom and dad both teachers or
No,
are they both in the education
that is
field,
like a whole nother like really crazy story. So my dad was a salesperson for a long time, and my uncle was a really big pastor in the city of Milwaukee. And in 2000, my uncle passed away. And shortly after that, my dad kept running into friends and colleagues of my uncle, and they kept saying, "Your brother always wanted to start a school." And then one night, my dad woke up. I remember this because I was actually still living at home before I went to college. And he had like this vivid dream that he was supposed to quit his job and start the school that everyone kept telling my uncle was supposed to start. So he had a very good sales job. He quit his job, and in 2002 started the school, and the first year was 2003.
Wow. Charter school or Catholic or like religious
so yeah,
school?
Just a private K-8 religious school.
Gotcha. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, so it's a whole long kind of series of events that then ultimately led me to being there.
It's also interesting that you said like 7th grade was like the best job that you had in the school, because most people are like 7th grade, ooh, like because I teach 7th grade. Okay, middle school by trade, 26 years. Jamie, 95% of your career because you had 1 year was in
6th grade.
In 6th grade. Yeah. So it's just crazy to like that. why was 7th grade your favorite part? I got to ask because we all have different answers.
Well, it's really a twofold. One is the kids were old enough where I can have like actual real conversations with them and really get them to reason, but they weren't old enough to think they know everything. Well, a lot of them did still think they know everything, but they weren't old enough to think that they knew everything. So they still listened and really wanted to receive what I have. That's one reason. And the other reason I learned more now as a school leader is I didn't have to worry about everyone else's problems. I only had to worry about the 24 problems that were in my classroom on a day-to-day basis. And those were a lot easier to manage than the 500 problems that I have to manage on a day-to-day basis now.
Is that the enrollment, about 500?
Yeah, right now we're just about 400. Our school at one point had 750 kids.
Wow.
And we moved locations in 2022. We moved locations to a different part of the city. We remodeled a brand new building, and now we're kind of reestablishing and regrowing with that neighborhood.
Awesome.
Ed, my dad was in public education for 38 years in the city in New Jersey, a city called Newark, which is a pretty, very, very urban spot. Anyway, he was a teacher for a few years and then went on to be principal, but he will always say that 7th grade was his most favorite, like the best grade, and for many of the reasons that you listed as well. So, that's a really nice connection there. Thank goodness for the people who love different ages, right? That gives all of us an opportunity to, hopefully be with the ones that we connect with the best.
And trust me, when people are like, we teach 6th, 7th, and 8th in our building, and every year our principal will always be like, hey, what do you want to do? She'll send an email out. What do you want to do? You want to do anything different? Blah, 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 blah. And I always say, look, I'll literally do anything. I don't care. I'll teach whatever I'm certified to teach. Doesn't matter. I said, I would prefer not to teach 6th grade. Then there's a reason why. Like they're just a little, and again, no offense to any 6th graders, a little babyish. It's just not my cup of tea. There's a reason I don't teach elementary school. Like I'm kind of built with my sense of humor and the way my brain works to deal with like 7th and 8th grade, outbursts and behavior and stuff like that. Like that's what I'm built for. So yeah, did you also teach like lower elementary grades as well?
No, I have never. Well, when I taught gym, I taught all of the kids. I did everything. So that was a little experience. And I was just like, I just enjoy older kids. I wouldn't want to be in high school. When I've been in high schools doing work, I'm just like, I would never want to teach above 8th grade, but 7th and 8th grade to me is like that sweet spot of they're old enough where you can have conversations and reason with them, but they still don't think they know everything just yet. So they're a couple years before that age too. Yeah, I loved 7th grade.
That's awesome.
So what does your day-to-day look like as the director of the school? Is that what was the title that you used?
I'm the executive director. Yeah. So we have a principal. Director. So it's like close to like a superintendent of a single school. It's kind of the best way I really describe it. Okay. The primary thing I do right now is really managing the budget, community outreach, a lot of that aspect. So some days it is doing a lot of paperwork for the state of Wisconsin. Other days I'm able to be around the building. But I get to work around like 7:00, which I used to get to work at like 6:15 every day. But I have to drop our dog off at daycare on the way, get to work at 7, and then I'm usually out by around 3-ish because I have to pick our dog up from daycare. But there was a time where I was getting there at 6:15 and I was leaving at 5:00, so I've done the long days. And I know we'll probably go into stuff a little deeper, but that really ended up taking a toll on me. Just really, when you're putting 65, 70 hours in a week, it was a lot. Yeah. And people don't understand that in education, how draining a regular day can be, let alone adding 2 hours every single, 2 or 3 hours every single day. So yeah, my days are much shorter, but we have an incredible team. So people always ask as the executive director how I'm able to do work at other schools and have a little more freedom, but it's because we have an incredible leadership team with our principal, our director of operations. Everyone else on our team is absolutely incredible. So I always like to give them a shout out, because I'm able to not have to feel like I have to sit at work, be the first one there and the last one to leave, which I used to have to feel because of the team that we have.
So one of the things that kind of, drew me when I found you on social media and saw some of the stuff that you had been talking about, was about, and it's something, listen, I struggle with it. It's about like reclaiming boundaries, because you talked about like what you just said, like working 65, 70 hours a week, giving your all for your students in and out of the classroom. Like that is mentally and physically draining. But how do you, if you are in a situation where I think both Jamie and I, we're go-to people in our building, right? Or people, both administrators and colleagues will come to us for either advice, to vent, to, when there's an issue and you're standing in the cafeteria and they're like, oh, how should we handle this? And the eyes all go to you. That can be very daunting to have to deal with. But one of the things I definitely would love to talk to you about is, I know you go and do speaking engagements at other, and go, I guess, at other schools and other places. Like, what are some of the things that you're seeing that teachers need or should do in order to reclaim boundaries within our profession? Because that's a big struggle for us.
Yeah. One of the best piece of advice I would give someone, I think people are very good at setting boundaries, but we're not good at standing and being intentional with them. Like, we'll say, hey, this is my boundary. But when someone steps over it or it gets violated, we don't do anything to change it. And people will treat you how you allow them to. And one of the things I try to really encourage educators is, once we set boundaries, we have to make sure that we properly communicate them to the people around us, because then people can really understand, Jamie and Joe aren't mad. They just have time frames and boundaries that they have set, and I have to respect that. But if you say, hey, I'm not answering emails after 7 p.m. and someone sends an email at 8 o'clock and you constantly respond, you are telling them that there are no boundaries, that you are going to respond to them. So I think the main thing I really share with educators is setting them. But if you don't communicate them with other people, it can also create tension, because then they may think you're mad at them. They could think there's a problem, versus, hey, just so everyone knows, after 7 o'clock, I'm not going to respond to a work email. If it's an absolute emergency, feel free to text my phone or call my phone. But if it can wait till tomorrow, I'll respond as soon as I'm able to. Now people have a clear understanding of, these are the boundaries that he set. And then if they do cross that, that's kind of, a personal thing that you would have to address with individuals. But I think it just creates clear expectations, and that's where you see a lot of blurred lines for people.
So I see that you have a series specific for teachers, the Be Well Teacher Academy. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that started?
Yeah, so the Be Well Teacher Academy, it's working on it's been launched, but I'm working on really getting it going. So the Be Well Teacher Academy started off as the Be Well Teacher Box. In 2021, during Teacher Appreciation, I was creating a teacher appreciation gift for our staff. And what I did is I just went out and bought some boxes, and I bought some candles, some books, some other items, and I just kind of put it in a box and just kind of packaged it up and gave it to our teachers. And they were just like, this is one of the best things we've ever received. So me being a business-minded person, I was like, hey, if my teachers like it, what if this was a business and a company like a BarkBox and, these bigger subscription companies? So I created the Be Well Teacher Box, which was a gift box for teachers. And I wasn't sure, do I sell them directly to teachers? Do I sell them to schools? So there was really no clear direction on it. But what I ended up finding is, when I was talking to our staff about why they liked it, they said it was somewhat about the items, but more about the experience of opening the items and having, ways to light a candle or shower steamers that you can, use to really decompress. So then my thought was, 6 or 7 months ago, what if I turn this into an online community where teachers can have a network of people? We did a live event in February. We're going to be getting those back going in April. There are resources on the community where they can, how to manage stress, how to stress, there's habits. So we have different categories that people can go through. But I really wanted to create a network because when I talk to teachers, a lot of them feel alone, or the people that are around them don't get it. You have summers off. How can you be tired? You just had a week off of winter break. How can you
dude,
be
I know. Listen,
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt, but the breaks and this and that and the other thing. Like we were just talking about like how it's March and like stuff like that. Like I literally planned. I kid you not. I planned a doctor's appointment for mid-March because I knew that like March has a lot of days where like we're working in a row. I said, all right, let me make this appointment on like a Wednesday. Because I also know that like Wednesdays for me are a light day after school, because we talk, Ed, we talk a lot about, our schedules and balancing, and it's sports and baseball. And, right when we were coming on, it's Jamie's kids doing working for the American Heart Association and doing like fundraising events for that for various reasons, which is amazing. But that's all, again, something else on our time. So I literally planned like a doctor's appointment. It's like, okay, I'm going to do like a 7:30 doctor's appointment for this like scan thing that I got to go get done. And like, I'll be done mid-morning. And then I got the whole rest of the day to myself to figure out, well, what do I want to do? Do I want to, go hit a couple golf balls, go walk around outside, just take a ride, and do something on the way home, take myself out to lunch. Like people don't understand like how much you need that. And you get to that end of the school year where everybody's just like drained and fried and you need that reset. It's not as simple as, oh, you have all these breaks, you have all this stuff. Like it's especially at the middle school level, which is all I could speak to because that's where my career lies, is it's a lot. It is like, there are even days like right now, like I have found myself like when you are on stage for however many hours a day in front of a classroom and you're animated and you're doing a lesson and it's stations and you're going from here to here to here and you're dealing with this behavior problem. That one's having an issue. Today I'm, translating for one student in Spanish who misunderstood something that was said there in English and thought that a student made a racist comment, but they didn't, because like there's literally a language barrier between the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I got home today and I was like, I need a drink. Like, and I'm not really a drinker. Like, it's not really my thing. Like, I do, but like, I'm not that kind of person.
Not
But
on
I
a
was like,
Tuesday.
not on a Tuesday. Like, I come home on Friday and like when it's nice out, sit on the porch and have a beer. But like, my goodness, like like sometimes, like, yeah, and I have like that decision fatigue because you've made so many decisions throughout the day. That I'm just like, kids are like, oh, what should we go and have for dinner? Like somebody just decide, like, I'll cook it. I don't care. Just tell me and I'll do it. I don't want to make any more decisions. Anyway, I'm sorry that I jumped in there.
The idea of like the bark box type of teacher
I love it, by the way.
appreciation it made me start to think about some of the teacher appreciation gifts that I've gotten. Once was a flashlight. Another time we got Pilsner glasses, which you can't drink at work. So we got Pilsner glasses and they said "you're appreciated" on them, but the "your" was spelled incorrectly.
Oh.
Yo, that's fantastic. I'm sorry. That's just
I mean, and what did all the
glorious.
people do? We saved them for years. And when like this whole group of people retired at one time, that was like the centerpieces we had at all the tables. But no, but really the idea of having like a really lovely gift put together. And I'm sure, like anything, if you're tasked with doing that and you have 100 people to give something to, like, right? Like our boss has 100 people for teacher appreciation. That it's a lot of different people. So what a lovely idea to be able to, or even as a parent, if you wanted to gift your child's teacher with something, I think it's great. It's for sure something that I would be shopping for.
Yeah, it went well, but then what I found was putting them together was so much work.
Oh, yeah.
Like every time I had a big order, I'm like, oh gosh, I got to go and put together 30 of these boxes because I couldn't afford to have a team and have people.
Yeah.
So I was just like, what can I do that's a lower barrier of entry that still gets people the experience? And I'm in a community of speakers, and I have access to some of the best speakers in the world. So I was like, I have people that will come speak for free to teachers for me. And I just want to
That's
create
amazing.
a platform in this space. And
Yeah.
our first event, I brought 3 of my friends on. We had a 2-hour, it's called a recharge event. And there was like 25 people, and I was like, there should have been 25,000 because
Who was that offered
everyone
to,
that-
if
Yeah.
you don't mind me asking?
Yeah.
so it was offered to everyone that was in the, oh, sorry, I got my dog next to me. It was offered to everyone that was in the community. And I did, and it's right now the memberships are free because I just want to get as many people to join and to sign up. But then I haven't really been pushing it because I want to get things more organized. I want to do, it's called Saturday morning coffee every single Saturday at 8 a.m. Central. So right now I'm building out a schedule of people that I know that will come and speak and pour back into educators so they can open up their phone and be on, and they don't have to have their screens on like this. They can just have it on their, on their counter while they're having their coffee before the family's up, before they have to go start running errands. So I'm really just trying to be more, I was kind of just going with it with no real plan. So right now I'm resetting, coming up with a plan. But yeah, I have just a phenomenal network of educational speakers, wellness speakers. One of the people that has committed, and I'm going to get her scheduled, she just won Psychologist of the Year nationally. So it's like I have this great network, and I wanted to be able to bridge the gap with educators because they need people that can like really pour back into them and give them actionable things that they can do to really preserve themselves. I always say there's not this long line of teachers lining up to get in a profession. So we have to do whatever we can to keep the ones that we have healthy. And then when other people all people see is teachers complaining about life and their job. So why would anyone else want to sign up to do this work when every time I go on Facebook, it's like, you guys are complaining. I don't want to, why would I go into something where everyone's complaining?
Yeah.
So it's like, how do we make educators happier that then can draw other people to education? Because we're going to end up running out of people that want to do it because the pay is too low, the job is too demanding, and it's a mentally draining thing if we're not intentional with how we spend our time.
I really like the avenue of creating a network. Because a lot of times when you're at a training or professional development, or you'll get the email for like, take some time to yourself, practice self-care. And like, some people don't know how to practice self-care.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not saying that as like a tongue-in-cheek thing. Like, people are like, where do I start? Like, and I'm going to blatantly ask you, let's say I got 30 minutes a day, Ed. What can I do, or what might I do to start forming that habit of taking care of myself? The idea of like, hey, the old airplane adage of like, if the oxygen mask comes down, you got to put it on yourself before you help other people.
Yep.
Like, we got to help ourselves before we can help others. Like, if I'm not coming to work in a mental headspace with the availability where I am, centered, focused, and intentional, which are words I use the word intentional all the time with myself, and that was my word of the year last year. Like, that's what, how I like to focus. Like, what can I do with 30 minutes a day? Like, what are some things that I might be able to implement?
Yeah, I think the easiest thing someone can do is go take a walk. Like, you don't have to have some long gym routine. I mean, it's obviously not the nicest out now in Wisconsin, but just getting outside and getting some fresh air and walking and not having your phone, maybe it's some music playing, or, maybe it's just nothing. Maybe it's just wind and birds and not noise.
Or maybe a great podcast with a bunch of people. Just saying. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. Like, I feel like that's the
Shameless
easiest thing people can do. People are like, well, I don't have a lot of time. It's like, even if you just take a 15-minute walk, that's better than no walk. One of the biggest misconceptions is on the weekend, I just need to do nothing. And I think that's the mistake a lot of people make, is we just do nothing. It's like pulling up to a gas station and not filling your car up and then just driving off without doing anything. Like, that's essentially what we do on the weekends. So it's like, what, is it just reading a book for 15 or 20 minutes? Is it walking? Joe, you talked about golfing. Like, I love to golf. That is a time where I don't check my emails, where I'm in nature, the air, it's, fresh air, birds. That is how I love to recharge my battery. So I think it's important for people to find, I call it a recharge routine. What do you do to refill your battery on a day-to-day basis? It could be sitting in your room with absolutely no noise. I don't really listen to music or anything when I drive these days because for me, sometimes that's the only quiet time I have all day.
Mm.
And I just sit in my thoughts and drive, so
Yeah.
it's really important for people to identify, but then you have to make sure it's a scheduled thing. It can't just be, oh, I'll walk when I have time. It's, at 6 p.m. tonight, I'm going to go for a 15-minute walk around the neighborhood. Or like at our house, we bought a walking pad for those that are just like, it's cold. I think we got a walking pad off Amazon for like $90. It wasn't, it's not nothing fancy, but I can put it in front of a TV and just get some movement. Movement is something I don't think people do enough because we're so tired. But part of the reason we're so tired is because we're not moving and working on it. And, we don't have to be bodybuilders, but you have to get some sort of movement. And that's just the simplest. I think that's just the lowest level of thing that someone can do to really start feeling better about things that are going on.
James, you recently posted something. I posted something about like
I
there was
did.
a woman.
There was
Can
a
you talk
study.
about? Can you talk about that if you don't mind?
Yeah, there was a study that was done at Duke University, and they had like a group of people who were, feeling like moderately depressed, and they took, half of the group of people, and they gave them Prozac, and they gave half of the group of people the task of 1 hour a day of walking. And the walkers had like a marked improvement over the Prozac people. So it was exactly what you just described, and it is true. And the woman, while she was walking and describing the study, you could tell it was freezing out. Like she had her hat on, the coat, the gloves, the whole. You could see like her, her breath, and so that was the idea of being outside, and it is so true. Of how restorative that can be. I mean, even after the few days that we just had, that was so like we didn't see the sun for days and days. And it's like the minute it came out and it reached like 40 here, it was like that fake, they call that like fake spring. And everyone was outside with like shorts on and they were like ready for it.
Yeah.
But it does, it just, it can change your mood so quickly. I do love the idea of the Saturday morning coffee. I think that's excellent. And really you keep saying to, kind of give back, pour it back in. Right. And it is so needed. And of course, I could definitely see myself joining in on something like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if anyone is interested, it's www.bewellteacher.com. Yeah, memberships are free. Eventually I'll charge. There's software and stuff we have to pay for, but I just know it's needed because people don't, like what Joe was saying, people don't know where to start. And doesn't have to be as complicated as people think. You don't have to spend $200 to sit in a spa. You don't have to have this $100 a month gym membership. I lost a bunch of weight over the summer without really going to the gym at all. I was like, I'm going to eat smarter and I'm going to walk 30 minutes every single day, even if it's 15 minutes before work, 15 minutes after work. And that made all the difference in the world. I talked to our teachers, at school and, you're ordering DoorDash and it's fried chicken and all these, very heavy. And then you're wondering by 2 p.m. why you feel terrible.
Yeah.
Well, you are just filling yourself with, and I wouldn't call myself like a health nut. I still eat. I mean, as a matter of fact, I had a fried chicken sandwich yesterday. But when you do that every single day and then you're groggy and you're tired. So it's important that we really are trying to be mindful of what we eat, but then movement is just the simple, and walking. Like you don't need a gym membership to walk.
Now I see that you wrote a book. Can you want to talk to us a little bit about your book? I love the title.
Which one? I have 2 books.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I was just going to bring up the book myself, but
I
do love the
Closing the Believement Gap.
Okay. Yeah, so that just came out maybe like a month ago. So that book really highlights my journey. So a lot of people, they learn this when I speak, that I was actually kicked out of school. I was expelled 3 times growing up. I was suspended numerous times. I was a special education student starting in 3rd grade. I was diagnosed as being emotionally disturbed. So I had a lot of challenges. And in that book, I get to highlight the incredible educators that really ended up making a difference in my life when I got in high school. So it kind of talks about some of those stories. It talks about stories with staff members I worked with in leadership. It talks about other teachers that I've seen how they've worked with students. So it really just highlights the power of it. It's power of just believing in kids, believing in your coworkers. So often we see challenges that kids have and we're just like, well, they can't do it. And it's like, if that's the mentality we have, you're right, because we're the ones that have to help them do it. And if we don't believe they can, they won't. So I really dig into some of the incredible coaches and teachers that I had, that when I get the opportunity to speak at schools and speak at events and in front of students, that I always highlight, because especially now, it's so important for teachers to know that there's hope for the kids that you're working with, and you can make a difference. Even if you have 25 kids in a class, you may not reach all 25, but what if you just reach one of them and change that one kid's life? So I like to say I'm an example of what can happen when you change one. These teachers changed my life, and now I'm a school leader changing other people's lives. And that would never have happened had they just given up on me, like many of my teachers before them had done.
What flipped the switch for you? I mean, you mentioned about it, like getting expelled and stuff. Like, I'm not, was there a particular moment or teacher or year that you were like, you know what, I got to get my S together. I got to get my stuff together and figure out that I need to do A, B, and C if I want to. I'm either going to go with one path or the other. Like, what was the switch that flipped that made you kind of change course?
Yeah, so I was expelled for the last time as a freshman in high school, and I had a freshman Brit Lit teacher, Miss Davis, that she showed up to, and I didn't know this till after the fact. She showed up to my expulsion hearing and like really went to bat for me. I was not there. She was a seasoned teacher. She had been there for a long time, and because of her influence, it was a newer principal. They were like, okay, like we'll give this kid another chance. And then when I came back as a sophomore to my high school, I started playing sports. I played sports as a kid, but when I started playing sports, it helped me surround myself with better friends, better influences, and it really gave me something to look forward to. I think some kids show up to school with nothing to look forward to. Like, I'm not good at school. My teachers don't like me. Like, this is awful. Where for me, at first it was like, if I get good grades, I get to play sports. So that was my carrot that was always dangling. Like, I need X amount of grades to be on a football field, to be on a basketball court, to run track. But Miss Davis is like that special educator that really, really showed me love and believed in me. And I think because I was a special education student, when I misbehaved, a lot of teachers, they really like made it was like a crutch. Like, well, he's a special education student. He's emotionally disturbed. This is what he's supposed to be doing. Where Ms. Davis was like, this is not how you're going to act in my class. You are better than this. Like, I have better expectations. And it was really one of the first times where a teacher didn't excuse my behavior because of a title and a label that I had. So I talk a lot about her. I talk about football with my football coaches. And my other book called The Secret Sauce talks, there's some parallel stories where that book is more about classroom and school culture. The Closing the Believement Gap is strictly the simple fact of, like, there's science behind what happens when people believe. There was a study that was done where a teacher had a classroom full of students, and they were told, these 12 students have been tested and they're on track to be like the smartest kids ever. And these 12 students are very average, when in fact, there was no test ever done. At the end of the experiment, the 12 students that the teacher was told were on track exceeded the other ones, because the teacher looked at them differently, viewed them differently. There was probably subtle things that they were doing to set them up for success because they expected them to be successful. So there's something in our mindset as educators that we have to believe that our kids are capable. We have to believe that our coworkers are capable, and we have to believe that we're capable of doing really phenomenal things. And I think that is something that has been kind of beaten and sucked out of educators over the last 3 or 4 years because of everything that's gone on in education.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn,
I've
man.
been
Seriously, that's
sorry.
no, please. I'm kind of, it's an awesome story, really.
Yeah.
I appreciate how much, and how genuine you are in talking about it. Like, yeah, these are especially when you talk about, like, when you were talking about, like, where the teachers would be like, yeah, well, he's emotionally disturbed. This is how he's supposed to act. Like, yeah, I'm not saying I've done that, but there are times where you're like, yeah, well, um, they have extreme ADHD because of whatever reason, like they're not able to manage their behavior. But well, maybe they are, but we're just not giving them the necessary tools that they need in order to do that.
Yeah.
And maybe
Yep.
that's what Miss Davis gave you. That's a great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It really is a great story.
I've been taking a series of courses, like of trainings through our school district from a doctor out of California, Dr. Elizabeth Denevy, and she has a podcast and she's written she's done lots of different studies, and it's her book is called Teaching While White. And a lot of what she does is specifically, looks at the number of teachers who are white compared to the number of, students of color that they're working with. And a lot of it is the bias in questioning when working with students of color. And there have been so many things that, they're profound of the ways that you speak. And it's similar to what you said about your expectations. And sometimes it's, like I have twins and there's always that, one twin is which one's the bad one, and I always was like very against, I'm not going to do that because if you are saying, oh, you're the funny one and you're the smart one, they sort of fill those characters that have been created for them. And so I think it is like that moment, of just really like recognizing whether it's race, questioning, intelligence, behavior. And I think teachers, especially because they've been so under fire the last few years, they're extra sensitive, but kind of having like an open mind and open heart to, yeah, there are certainly times when, someone will say, I never like to listen to, oh, let me tell you about those kids. I had them last year. I'm like, no,
Nope.
no, thank you. Absolutely
Yep.
not. We've even talked about the kid that you see in October is not the kid you see in January,
Yep.
because they're
Yeah.
just changing so much. So yeah, so I love that. I love the believement gap because
I've also,
that is
I,
everyone needs someone that is going to champion them.
and I've
Yep.
also went in the opposite direction in my career where like taught a kid in the 7th grade, and I went to their 8th grade teacher and be like, hey, look, you're going to see this, but I'm telling you, if you, approach it in this manner, you're going to get you're going to get a student that's in your room that's going to not only be successful, but thrive in that environment. You got to look past some of those, quirky things that they might do or behavior issues that they have. And if you reach them on that level, they're going to be, a shining star in your classroom. Sometimes you need to
Yep.
do that as well. Like let people give people a heads up, because I'm sure, listen, man, I'm sure there were some teachers that, they're like, oh, that kid's back here in the sophomore. Like, I'm saying, I don't mean that, you know what I mean? Like there are
Yeah.
people like, oh, he's
No,
back
definitely.
again. But
Well, I mean, even your teacher, I've been in that position before, right there. I've been a Miss Davis, and your colleagues are not happy with her. I'm sure that there were
Yep.
colleagues that were not happy for her, with her for standing up for you,
yeah,
and
Yeah.
she did it anyway, which is remarkable
yeah,
because
Yep.
it's brave.
there was a young man, a few years ago that Jamie, in her classroom made a very good relationship with, and I only had him for a brief period of time, but I would always talk to him, just because he was just very smart, but he was incredibly impulsive. He was a teenage boy, okay, but there are times when like I know that he had conversations with Jamie that were not like a normal conversation, where he showed compassion, where he listened to her, where like he was respectful and kind. And like at one point I said to him, I was like, like I know that, because we're good friends and he knew that. I was like, hey, like, I just want to tell you, I just want to say thank you. Cause like she needed that in that moment. She needed that conversation and she got it from a 13-year-old boy. But all the other people that are like this kid and that kid, like you're not seeing him for what he is. Like
Yep.
you're letting that impulsive teenage boy behavior get the best of missing out on a child that, has some interesting situations at home, but we need to like put that behind us and give this kid, a little bit of grace and compassion and
And
understanding.
also, like everyone is not for everyone in
Yeah.
every situation, but
Yeah.
certainly don't block someone that's reaching them. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
don't try to make it, don't hinder it. So you seem to have like a lot of series of talks and things like that. And I see you have some things cooking up for summer 2025. Are those in person? Are those going to be offered virtually?
Yeah, so this summer I will be at a few conferences. I do partner with Innovative School Summit. Those are all in person. So I'll actually be in Orlando in March. I'll be in Nashville and Vegas with them in the summer, and I'll be working with Elevate Your Classroom, which is a K to 3. I'll be doing a leadership courses with them in I'll be in St. Paul and Nashville, I believe is the other city. So yeah, I love to spend time at conferences, because I get the opportunity to reach teachers from all over. But then I get to connect with a lot of other presenters and speakers, and I sit in their sessions and I'm taking notes and learning. I'm learning myself. So yeah, that's usually how I spend my summers, doing a lot of conferences, and then I'll do some consulting and speaking at some schools if they have sessions going on, or when they do their welcome backs. I do a lot of keynote in the fall for schools.
Yeah, cool. No, and do you have any kind of? I know you've said you've been like working it out. Do you have any kind of idea as to when the idea of like coffee in the morning is going to drop, or when you might start doing that, in case our listeners might want to look into it?
Like really like mid-April to get it back going. So I'm just trying to have a consistent line, so I have it every Saturday, because it's not really. I didn't want to create this community where people are going to be looking for me, because then I'm going to burn out, and then I'm going to need a community of my own that I got to find to. So I'm trying to really build it out where every Saturday morning it was 30 minutes. We've done 2 of them. And the nice part is then the recordings get put back in our community. So if people miss it, they can always go back and see it. So doing monthly 1-hour events with 2 speakers, and then every Saturday. But I just want to really create that consistent thing where educators can know, like 8 a.m. Central on a Saturday, I can have my cup of coffee, my cup of tea, or I could be in the car. Or if I can't make it and we got things going on, I'm able to circle back and listen to it later. So I would like to say by like mid-April, because I'll be a lot of traveling trips where I'm going to be doing some work coming up. So I've been in touch with people, but I would say like mid-April, that'll be going in. And the community right now is free, and it'll honestly probably be free until school starts back. We have like 170 members right now. And my goal is to grow to 10,000 members.
That's awesome.
That was kind of where I set when I started it, because I just know the need.
Yes.
It was just going to be a subscription base where we've talked like $4.99 or $7.99 a month, something like a cup of coffee price that gets you these resources. It gets you other people that when you had a rough day, you can be like, hey, today was awful. Does anyone have any advice? And their advice actually makes sense. It's not just like, how could it be bad? You work with 4-year-olds. You don't do anything. You just play with kids all like the lack of empathy from a lot of people's communities. So it's like really creating this network where people understand, but it's also not those like negative teachers that Jamie was talking about. Like, there are people that are like, hey, today was tough and that's okay. Let's try it again tomorrow. There's a couple teachers in every building that just suck the life out of schools. Yeah. And like, I don't want those teachers in this community. Like, I want the people that like, life can still be difficult, but we can still lift each other up and be positive, as positive as we can, but giving them resources that they can then take and be like, okay, I'm struggling with stress. Here's some things that I can try to do. Here are some resources. And here's a video that, where I had someone speak, and it's like, these are tips that you can do to help you starting now. And I think that's the thing, is like giving people actionable things in a community at a very free right now, because teachers need it. And that's where teachers that I've talked to, it's like I'm in a school with 1,000 kids and 50 people, and I feel alone. Like, that's an awful feeling that a lot of teachers are feeling right now. And that's kind of where this thought came from.
And can you, would you mind plugging the website again? Let's get that out there. So if any of our listeners want to sign up, please do.
Yeah, it's www.bewellteacher.com. And there is, you just click and start your membership. And right now, what you can do is when you go in, there's like a checklist, there's habits, there's some courses that are already built out for people that they can go through. And then there'll just be updates coming of when the live events, because that's what I learned early on, is people like they're like, the resources are okay, but we love the live events where we can log in, and it's all done via Zoom webinar, which the best part about that is you don't have to put your makeup on. You don't have to have clothes on. You can show up as is with your camera off, and it's just going to be the person speaking on screen. So there's really no commitment to the viewer other than just opening your phone or computer up and listening. So we did it that way intentionally because we were trying to eliminate barriers where people are like, well, I don't really want to turn my camera on and do that. So like, you don't have to do any of that. You just have to show up. And if you can't show up, the recordings, as we finish them, get dropped right back in the community.
Awesome.
And everything is linked from your Instagram. So it's super easy. If you didn't get a chance or you're driving and you can't write down the email address, everything is linked through Edward DeShazer on Instagram. You can get there really easily. Edward DeShazer, we appreciate you.
Yeah.
And Joe, I appreciate you. I cannot wait to have some coffee with some Midwesterners, as it were. That would be great. And we look forward to all of the great things that you have planned to help the teacher community, which is what we are all about.
Yep. I appreciate you both. This is a great conversation today. Ed, thanks a lot for joining us. And we will see everyone on the Balancing Act podcast on our next episode.
Bye.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Look for the Balancing Act podcast every week on your favorite podcast platform. New episodes drop every Tuesday. Thank you for being a part of our audience. We appreciate you.